$202.64 billion. That's what you contribute to if you play any type of video game or buy any type of video game related product. And with a bigger number like that would mean bigger, better, funner games. But there's a problem with this, and that's making games takes a long time. Now I'm looking at you, Star Citizen, and with needing more products in terms of video games, more specifically, there's going to be corners cut in the effect of the overall quality. Something AAA games used to be known for. Bigger budget, bigger and better game. But it seems now that the better is being left out. You'd expect with the amount of time and resources that they allocate to the game, that the game would actually be pretty decent, but you'd be wrong. And the reason for this is that some people overlook the fact that a lot of games, for some odd reason, switch engines either halfway through the game development or after they've made like pre-alpha stuff. And sometimes using engines that aren't really specifically made for what they are making, and in turn end up being limited in terms of the moves that they can make. And then at that point, they're kind of just playing a game of Jenga. Halo Infinite with the Slip Space engine, which they are now retiring for that game, and instead for the next Halo, if they choose so, they're going to be using the Unreal Engine 5. Slip Space had many issues, that's why the game had a lot of missing content, especially Forge. Cyberpunk with the Red Engine 3, which was specifically made for The Witcher 3. That's why that game was a release disaster. CD Projekt Red's going to be using the Unreal Engine 5, most notably for their new Witcher game. EA with Battlefield 2042 using the Frostbite engine, which they've used for all of their Battlefields, which they ended up using an older version of Frostbite to actually develop the game and released it on a newer version. That new version took about 18 months to develop anyways, and so you could probably tell that the stuff that they had in the previous version of Frostbite was bound to be messed up anyways. And all of these games have had the exact same problems. The switching or unoptimized use of engines, kind of the sole reason of why these AAA games had rough starts anyways. The sad thing is that they can't plug and play it into a new engine. They just kind of have to bite the bullet and hope for the best. And you know what they also got to do is squeeze that lemon juice. So they're going to try their best to actually squeeze as much as they can out of the game anyways. What better way than copying business models? See, it's not that bad to copy a business model. If it works for someone else, it hopefully works for you. All it is just a different theme, that theme being the game. But the thing is that their number one goal is your time, because the more you play, the more you pay. How this happens now is that basically every AAA game model has the same exact business model. Use season passes, inflate player time, they use money to either buy tiers or buy whatever's in the shop for that specific season, because majority of the seasons have a sort of theme to them. And with that means a reoccurring play game loop that people have been playing for a while anyways, because they most likely use their data to basically figure out, okay, this works, this doesn't work, let's not do this, let's do this. That's why season passes work so well. It gives a feeling of actually progressing through the actual game, when in reality it's just reused assets, reused play game loops, etc. But with them doing this is it shows a lack of effort being put into the game. That's not to say that the actual environments lack effort. No, a lot of the times they look really good. I'm referring to the gameplay loops. And with additions to the season pass, you end up having reduced customization in terms of what the actual stuff looks like in favor of shops oftentimes having the better stuff than what you would have if you were to unlock it. Now that's to say if only they actually had stuff to unlock. And with that statement, I'm referring to free-to-play or freemium games. And those games make a killing, but have the same gameplay loops for their respective games, which in a way for future stuff they kind of pigeon-toe themselves for that game, because once the game dies or starts to die, they can't really release or make a second game. And no, Fortnite doesn't really count. They use seasons and it's just the same game, different phases. But they've got to maintain a profit for as long as they possibly can. What better way to maintain popularity and longevity than trailers? My fucking balls. Damn. A good way to get people hyped for a game or an upcoming release of DLC, and hopefully leading them back into actually playing the game. Really just used to explain nothing, while at the same time explaining something to the people that make lore videos on those games. To the game, it really doesn't add anything to the story. The trailer is just like a bag of chips with air in it. Not a lot of chips, but a whole lot of air. Or an ugly girl with makeup. That's probably a better example. It was really just deception on their part with the trailers, but they do serve their purpose pretty well. But I think that they've been banking on this for too long. Too often have games been releasing awesome trailers, but once the game actually releases, it's a huge flop. They still get their bag at the end, but it seems like they put more effort into the trailers than the actual games themselves. Case in point, this will probably be my only example of this with the trailer thing, will be Destiny 2's new Lightfall DLC. Has mostly negative reviews on Steam, and pretty much anyone that's played it doesn't really have any good thing to say about it, other than a couple things. Which brings me to my next and final topic, too little and too much. Now, what I mean by too little and too much is that the game's been out for so long that they don't really know what or want to do anything with the game. That's the too little. The too much is the game with many entries in the series that have come before it, just slightly different with each entry. And there's the couple big shakeups here and there, but overall it's the same game as it was whenever it was first out. These are the two cases. These two both have possibilities to do great, but as they go on, the effort starts to sort of drop off. This usually happens within the first or second year of the game's life cycle. And with that, they both heavily push microtransactions. All that for a steady profit. Instead of actually releasing another game or a new IP, granted new IP is risky, but they end up going with what they know best, and after a while it becomes very stale, which is what's happening now with gaming. Games are somewhat stale a lot of the times. People just don't want to branch out of the games that they are used to playing because they've been playing the same Fortnites, the same Call of Duties as they have been for years. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Now, these are some of the things that I've noticed that are what's making AAA and other games hit this weird region of getting players day one but losing them after a month or a year. Only changing anything once they actually cave into player feedback, or they just straight up ignore the player feedback and let their game burn. It's a rough situation that gaming's in, and I don't really see it going away for AAA games, not even close for multiplayer or battle royales. Now, for single player games that for some odd reason have in-game transactions in them, for games where you can buy like currency inside of the games for single player games, I'm not too sure about those. Those seem kind of stupid anyways. But now gaming has become something that's become inconsistent in terms of quality in favor of cheap and easy ways of making money. Granted, they gotta make money for their stuff. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. The problem is in terms of the quality of what they release. But the thing is that their games usually a lot of the time always flop. But a lot of the times it's hit or miss picking the right game, because the more you play, the more you pay. But that's all. Thanks for watching.